Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Joemanchin once again saving the day. He saved the filibuster so the Senate won't become a rubber stamping, essentially an extension of the House of Representatives, and now he's saving us from federalized elections because he's made it clear he's not going to vote for the so-called For the People Act. Now, when you get an act or a bill or something proposed that has a name like that, like Patriot Act, Affordable Care Act, or this, usually that's because of bullshit. It's not patriotic, it's not affordable, it's not for the people. Federalizing the election system, by the way, arguably unconstitutional anyway, but Manchin's like, well, I've got no time for this shit, there's bigger things to do. Biden's, by the way, first-term agenda is falling apart. At this point, he's almost a lame duck because of opposition within his own fucking party. That's not going to change because that's going to continue at least until 22, and I believe that the Republicans are going to absolutely trash them in the House, based partially on the fact that they keep trying to do things like this. Now, first and foremost, there will be a pinned comment down below if you're watching this video on YouTube. Keep in mind, I make 4 videos every day, only 2 of them actually end up on YouTube. Sometimes I cover topics that are verboten. So you should join me elsewhere. You can get the true skinny on the news. You can't get it on YouTube anymore from anyone, really. You can get plenty of independent commentary, but not full commentary because there are too many things you're not allowed to say. But Manchin has done the right thing. He's also done his job. Once again, the people of West Virginia, being a red state, a very red state, I can't imagine are for the idea of taking election powers out of the states. And by the way, this is another reason that the fact that the states by and large have complete latitude in the elections is why I've told people, well, it would be nice to have like Trump 2024. It would be irrelevant unless in the lead up to that you start taking over local and state power. You start at the very bottom. Start with your local sheriff's office, your housing authority, your school board, the mayor, and stuff like that. The city councils, the town clerks. Shove aside the dross. Get people in there that are competent, understand the Constitution, get liberty-minded people in there. Then go after the state houses and take them over. It would take you for 4 to 8 years. You could have a supermajority of all that power under one hood. Once you have that, and the elections are actually fortified, once it's impossible for the Democrats or the Republicans, the establishment wings of those parties, to do anything about it, well, then you're home free. Then you don't have to worry anymore. You've essentially taken back your country. Simply having the presidency, that's a big piece of it. That's the capstone. But the capstone has to be held up by the rest of the arch, now doesn't it? Well, if you don't have the rest of the arch, it's just a rock. It's just lying there. You can only do so many things with it. Your big, beautiful arch never got built. Unfortunately, you've hammering things together now in the legislature. You got plenty of populistic Republicans, but you've still got a huge amount of dross, especially in the Democrats. They're still run by the neoliberals. They still haven't had their paradigm shift over yet, which is why they're having problems like this. Joe Biden and Pelosi and all these others bewildered by the fact that Joemanchin would essentially do the job of a senator. A senator's job is simply to represent that state. They don't represent the nation. They don't represent a national brand or a party platform, or at least they're not supposed to. They don't represent a party's interest. They're supposed to represent their state's interest. Would it be in the interest of a 55 to 60% Republican-leaning state to pass an act that would federalize the election, essentially, again, run up against the Constitution probably and get thrown out anyway, but would attempt to federalize the election system and take sovereignty away from West Virginia? No. Now, of course, in no other case, there shouldn't be anyone voting for this. It addresses a problem which doesn't exist. It's addressing the so-called problem of voter suppression. The Republicans are trying to keep citizens from voting. Having an ID does not prevent you from doing that. 99% of eligible voters already have an ID. The other 1% could easily get it. All you have to do is subsidize it. All you have to do is say, if you want a state ID, we're waiving the fee. That's it. Blue states are capable of funding that. It wouldn't cost very much. Oh, you don't have an ID? We're going to get you one. And because, you're lower class, you're poor or something, we're just going to waive the fee. Problem solved. Everyone can get an ID. You can get it within a week. It's real easy. It's not a problem. They insinuate that this somehow blocks especially minorities, so-called, we use that term loosely these days, from voting. I'm struggling to find a reason why a person's skin color has anything to do with their ability to get an ID. It doesn't. Of course, that's why I'm struggling, but the Democrats keep saying it's real in their mind, so I don't know what's going on. Or the idea of not being able to bribe voters by standing in line with campaign gear on and handing out cookies and water or something right next to the polling place. It's already unlawful. These laws that the Republicans are passing, by and large, just reaffirm more stringently laws that are technically already there. You already aren't allowed to bribe voters. It just recognizes that there's a form of bribery in which somebody in a Trump shirt shows up and hands you a bag of cookies and says, have a good time, because you're standing in line for more than 30 minutes. That is de facto bribery. Even if nothing is said like, hey, here's the Trump cookies. You should vote for Trump. That would be illegal, by the way. You can't do that. But even if it's just a person in a MAGA hat handing you cookies, the Democrats would probably have a big problem with that. And it would be, by the way, a really great way to troll in blue states, in states that aren't fortifying their elections, I mean in the real sense. It'd be really great if people in MAGA hats were outside the polling place, according to local laws, of course, handing out cookies or something like that. Wouldn't that be fucking funny? That'd be great. So yeah, you should troll the Democrats in their own states, because they don't have a problem with that. MAGA cookies are apparently perfectly allowable. Maybe you can even hand out MAGA hats to people. Hey, here's some free merch. It make sure people vote with their stomach, I guess, at that point. They have little water bottles. This is Trump water. This was bottled in Trump Tower, therefore it's superior quality. Something like reverse osmosis, filtered 10 times. So praise Joe Manchin, one of the few sane Democrats. It's funny that Kirsten Sinema is one of the others. She might, not potentially back such a thing either. Or Shaheen. Now, I don't even like Shaheen. I don't even like Sinema. I'm not even a fan of Joe Manchin. You got to realize, he is a standard Democrat in most ways. But this is so clearly unconstitutional on one end, against his constituents' wishes on the other end, that he can't vote for it, so he should be praised for it. And he's making the heads spin at the DNC headquarters. It's funny, they're like, oh my god, this is why we need to get rid of the filibuster. The problem is they need they would need Manchin to vote to get rid of the filibuster. But why would he want to do that? He's having a great time. He's the number one Democrat. He's more powerful than Joe Biden. Biden can't do anything without his exact approval. He is essentially a second president of the United States at the moment. Thank goodness, because it means that we've got essentially a president that's not demented. He's actually with it. I think he's in his 60s, by the way. So he's a spring chicken compared to most of these people. Biden's pushing 80. He's not demented. He's not willing to party with the far left. He's not hanging out with AOC and Bernie Sanders. Great. The Senate has been fortified against the lunacy of the Democratic Party. They need to crash and burn and lose the House in order to learn their lesson. Hopefully then finally they'll have like a party of JFK thing. Or even if they go off the far left cliff, at least they'll be different from the neoliberals. That's about all. Peace out.